Hello everyone and welcome to this HSMA solution video. Now in this video I'm going to be going through the solution to exercise 1 from Python session 1E, that was the Python programming part 1. Now in this exercise we're being asked to write a program that asks for the user's name, then asks for their age, stores the age as an appropriate variable type, and prints a message that says hello to the user using their name, and tells them how old they're going to be in 10 years' time. Now, I'm going to do this in VS Code, so I can also show you how I would use VS Code myself. But before I do that, I'm going to head to GitHub, so this is github.com, and I'm going to download the full repository of code for this session, so the full code, all of the coding exercises for session 1E, and we'll be using these in the later videos as well. So a repository is really just a collection of code, and it can be other things as well. There can be documents in there. It's just sort of almost, you can think of it as a folder, like on your Windows machine. It's just stored on the web. And it has some other useful features as well, but we will go into those later in the course. So I'm just going to search for HSMA first. Hopefully we are the top result. Unfortunately, we are not. I'm going to pop down here to users. There we are. So HSMA program. I'm going to click into repositories. And then I can see here that H61E Python Part 1 materials for HSMA session 1E. I could also use the search here. So as long as I know what the code is for the session, then I can find it like this. So I'm just going to click into the repository. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little arrow next to the code button, this green code button at the top right here, and I'm going to choose download zip. Now this is just, thanks to my Chrome settings, downloaded to a random folder. So what I am going to do is open that folder, and I'm going to drag this into a folder that I have created just for my sessions. I'm just doing this off screen a second because you don't need to see the horrendous mess that is my file system. Here we go. So what I have done is I have just moved this into a folder called Documents HSMA Exercises. You can put it anywhere on your machine. The only thing I'd probably recommend is that you don't put it somewhere like OneDrive. There's code sometimes doesn't interact all that well with cloud things like OneDrive. If you can't avoid that, then that's absolutely fine. Just be aware it could cause problems as you start to use some more advanced features down the line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to choose extract all. Why am I doing this? It's because it's a zip file. So what this means is we get the folder containing all the files downloaded to our computer as one convenient single file. But before we can interact with this, what we want to do is extract it into a more familiar sort of layout. So I'm going to click extract now. And what it will do is it will open up the extracted file for us in a new window. If I close that, you can see now that in Documents HSMA Exercises, I have both the .zip file and what is now just a standard folder. I'm going to delete the .zip file. We won't be needing that again. And then I'm going to double click in here. And actually, due to the way that we've structured the code repositories, it looks a bit weird, but you have to double click again and again. And then what you get into is a series of different files that relate to this session of the course. Now, actually, we don't have a file for the very first exercise. We're going to create a file from scratch ourselves, but I'm going to be popping it in this same place just to keep everything neatly together. So I'm going to minimize that, and now I'm going to head to VS Code. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up that folder that we were just looking at. So I can do this in two ways. If I've got this welcome screen up, I can choose open folder here. Or if I don't have this welcome screen, or if I just want to do it this way, I can choose file, I can choose open folder. You will be given a full Windows Explorer pop-up where you can navigate around your file system. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head to Documents, HSMA Exercises, and now I'm going to click on this folder. Now notice I haven't double clicked into it, I've just clicked so that it's highlighted, and I'm going to choose select folder. Now we'll just give VS Code a moment to think about this, and what we can see now is we have this little Explorer window on the left. Now, and also we want to trust the authors. The authors are Dan and I, the program staff. All this means is that if you don't trust the authors, then you probably can't run code within here. So do use your best judgment depending on where you downloaded code from, but HSMA code, only Dan and I can actually update the code in that repository. It will be safe. So we'll trust the authors, and we'll head back to our Explorer window. So if this isn't showing up for you, there could be two reasons. You may need to click on this little Explorer button here at the top left, two little sort of bits of paper, one on top of each other. That will make this window show up. The other option is we can come up to the very top right here, near where we would close the VS Code window, and you can see we've got a couple of little funny squares. Now we can toggle the primary sidebar, toggle the panel, and toggle the secondary sidebar. Now what you probably want is toggle primary sidebar, and again you can see that's just brought this Explorer window back up for us. Now, to navigate through the different levels of folders, so remember previously we had to we clicked in and then we clicked in again and again. Same thing in here. I'm just going to click on this one to expand it, the little tiny little arrow here. I'm going to click on this one to expand it as well. So now, because I've clicked on to 1E Python Programming Part 1, you can see that I've now got solutions and a couple of notebooks that we'll be using in the later exercises. Now, because I've selected this in my window, you can see it's blue, so that means I've clicked on it, I'm selected. When I now click File, a new file, the new file should be created there. Now, I've got a couple of different options. I don't want a text file. You can see here at the top where I've got this new file dialog. I don't want a text file because VS Code won't know how to run code within it. I could do a Python file. This is a very valid option, but what I personally like doing is opening up a Jupyter notebook. Why do I like Jupyter notebooks? I find it really easy to code iteratively in there. It's the nicest way I find to be able to run a bit of code, tweak it, run it again, and it also makes it really easy to separate your code out into logical chunks so you can see what each chunk is doing. There's some pitfalls to Jupyter notebooks as well. You might want to use Python files in quite a few instances, but for us, for our purposes, I would always start with a Jupyter notebook. That's just my personal preference. So that's what we're going to do today. And you may remember that long ago, at the beginning of this video, I copied the text from our slide telling us what we needed to do. Now, I'm going to hover at the very top of my new Jupyter notebook. What we've got here is called a code cell. That's where we can input our code and run it. But instead, if I go to the top and choose Markdown, and this will only appear when I hover, I get a new cell, and you can see at the top right here, or the bottom, sorry, even the bottom right of this new cell, it says Markdown. Now, Markdown is just fancy text. What it is text that allows you to use a couple of sort of nifty little shortcuts, short codes that will tell Markdown how to format the text. This makes it just a little bit more readable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and hopefully if I click paste, it's forgotten the of course I copied and pasted that folder, didn't I? So I'll head back to the slide. Let's copy and paste this again, and I'm going to paste it into my Markdown. Now, this is just because I'm horrendously forgetful, and I will forget what I'm being asked to do if I don't have it right in front of me. So what I'm going to do as well is I'm just going to make this a little bit easier to see the different steps that we want to do. I'm just going to break down the ask so that I can actually think about it in different stages and write the code for each of those stages. Now, this might not work for you, but it really helps me to think about the problem I'm being asked to tackle when it's a bit more wordy like this. So I'm just going to make a new line here, and I'm going to put hyphen and a space. You'll see why in a minute. I'm just making a bulleted list. So asks for the user's name, asks for their age, stores the age as an appropriate variable type, prints a message that says hello to them, tells them how old they'll be in 10 years' time. Now that I've formatted all this, I'm going to go up to the top right. I'm going to click on the little tick that says stop editing cell when I hover over it. So clicking on that, you can see now we've got a nice list of what we need to do in this program. So let's get started writing. Now, thinking back, we've been told how to do a few different things so far. We've been told how to do printing, both just using the standard print function and fStrings. We've been told how to get user input. We've been told how to store things in a variable, so this is almost like a little box with a label on it. So my box with the label on it saying name might store the name Dan, it might store the name Sammy. I might have another box next to it that's got a label on called age. This is my age variable. I could store the age 42, I could store the age 31, and so on. Now, what we need to do in this, as well as getting the user input, is just sort of string all of these concepts together. But let's go through it step by step, and you'll see that actually I might not do everything all at once. My code will adapt and change as I think about the different aspects of this program. Now, this is quite normal. You might find the more you program, the less you need to do that as well, but I'm going to go through very gradually here. So what do I want to do? I want to ask for the user's name. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is do input, which just means ask for name, or ask for some sort of input from the user even. And then when I open my brackets, I'm going to start a string. And what the string will be is what the user gets prompted with. So we want the user to know that they need to enter their name. Otherwise, they're just presented with a blank prompt and they're going, well, I have no idea what I need to do. So I'm going to do, what is your name? And I'm going to try and run this. Now, you'll see that nothing's happened so far because it's asking me to select a kernel. Now, a kernel, you can kind of think of this a little bit as your Python environments. We've gone through the Conda sessions and talked about setting up environments. So for these purposes, environments and kernel, you can kind of think of them as just the same thing. I'm going to click on Python environments. You can see I've got quite a few environments. You've got probably not quite as many at this point, but I'm going to choose today my base environment, my base Anaconda environment, because that's the one that's got the most default packages installed. We won't actually be using any packages today. Everything we use in this exercise is just a built-in feature of Python, but when in doubt, I would recommend choosing base. So what you can see now is at the top right of the screen, it says base. This indicates that within this Jupyter notebook, base will be used to execute any code cells that we run. This will be true until we close the notebook, we will save out, etc. And so we don't have to worry or think about our environments again while we're programming in this notebook until we close VSCode. So you can see now back at the top of the screen, I've been asked, what is my name? So I'm going to press, I'm going to put Sammy in because that is my name, and I'm going to press enter to confirm. Now, so far all that's happened is it's just printed out under the code cell Sammy. It hasn't stored it anywhere, and actually that's a bit of a problem because later on we want to be able to say something like hello Sammy, not just Sammy. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to store this input in a variable called name. So what I've done here is I've typed the name of my variable. A little bit confusingly in this case, it's called name. On the left hand side here, I've put an equal sign. Now, if you were using R, for example, then you would actually put this. For those of you who are coming from R, it's just the same, we just use equals. So name equals whatever the user inputs as their name. I'm going to click play again and enter my name again. And you can see this time it hasn't actually printed anything out, which is good in a way because that means it's just stored our name away, ready for later use. So let's print it out, but a little bit nicer. We're going to use an fString. Now, as a reminder, this is a format string. What it just allows us to do is a really neat way of mixing code and text in a single line rather than having to use lots of additional bits of code to join these strings together. It gives us a nice easy way to go, here's a little bit of text, here's a variable. It gets really powerful when you get further down the line and you want to mix more and more bits into a single output. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to press F, and you can note this is outside of my quotation marks. I'm going to put my quotation marks here. So we're telling it it's a format string outside of the quotation marks. Now I'm going to print, I'm going to put hello, I'm going to put a space, and I'm going to use curly braces. Now curly braces just tells Python whatever's inside these curly braces is a little bit of Python code I want you to execute. I'm going to put name, I'm going to put another space, and I'm going to put, well actually I'm not going to put a space, I'm going to put an exclamation mark here. I can put what a nice day it is today. So now I'm going to execute this cell. I'm being asked for my name again. I'm going to enter this at the top. And you can see now what we've got printed out is, hello Sammy, what a nice day it is today. Now, next bit, asking for the age. I'm going to do this in a separate code cell for now, just so that we don't have to type in our name and age both, because actually what you'll see now is if I type in name here and click play, it remembers that I am Sammy. I don't have to enter it again from scratch. It doesn't, it's remembered our variable from the previous code cell. Now, this is a really powerful part of Jupyter Notebooks, but I'm not interested in my name right now. I'm interested in my age. So this time I'm going to put age input and I'm going to question mark. Now, this time I'm going to execute my cell. My age is 31, and great, we've got my age. Now, we wanted to add 10 to the age, didn't we? So let's try doing age plus 10. And my age is still 31. And we've got an error. Now, why is that? So let's actually stop and have a look at this. And it says type error. Can only concatenate str, not int, to str. Now, breaking this down, str is string, text, effectively. Int is a whole number. So what we've got here is our whole number 10. What this must mean is that our age is a string. Now, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Because we entered 31, it's a number. Well, Python takes anything that we enter into this input, it reads it as a string, it stores it as a string. So let's try type. Nope, not tripe, type. And let's just remind myself whether this is the correct way. So if I run this again, 31, and you can see now I've run type age and we've got str. So that is telling us that the output of the variable age, well, the variable age is a string. If I type in 31 and do that, I'm just going to enter my name up the top there because we're running this whole code cell. But you can see this time type 31 is an int. Now, can we do something to this line of code to make it store it as an integer, which means then we can do maths with it effectively? Well, yes, we can. We can just wrap the whole thing. You can see we've used another set of brackets in int. Now, what this is doing is it is casting the output of our string as an integer. If I type in age here now, again, type age, so I've put in 31 just like before, but this time what is coming out is an integer. And if we put our previous bit of code back in, age plus 10, enter my age again, now this time we've got 41. So this is because we took our input, we got this little bit which was a string, and then we said to Python, take this whole bit and turn it into an integer for me, please. So we have asked the user's name, asked for their age, stored the age as an appropriate variable type, printed a message that says hello to them, and we've worked out how old we're going to be in 10 years' time. So let's just put the whole thing together. We are going to first highlight this first bit. We're going to right click and I'm going to choose cut. I'm going to create a new line up here, right click and choose paste. And now we have all in one code cell, name equals what is your name, age equals int input what is your age. So all that means is when I click play, we'll get asked for both of these inputs one after the other. Now I'm also going to expand this little bit of our print statement, and I'm going to get rid of what is nice days today because that wasn't part of the task, and I'm going to say in 10 years you will be, and I'm going to again open up my little curly braces, and I'm going to put age plus 10 into here. Now I'm going to click execute cell, and you can see at the top we've been asked, what is your name? My name is still Sammy. What is your age? My age is 31. I'm going to press enter to confirm, and you can see now that we have got, hello Sammy, in 10 years you'll be 41. And that's the end of the exercise.